What up guys, SuperMetal993 here bringing you another album review, and this time we've got some groovy thrash metal for you to check out today. And as you can see by the title, we're going to be reviewing the new album from the band Machine Head entitled Of Kingdom and Crøwn. This was released on Nuclear Blast Records in 2022. Now, I'll be very surprised if you haven't heard of Machine Head by now. They are a four-piece groove thrash band hailing from the US, and I've been a fan of these guys for many years. Like, they were one of the first metal bands that I truly fell in love with. They were around the same sort of margin of when I first discovered the Black Dahlia Murder, Slipknot, Korn, System of a Down, amongst others. They were actually supporting Slipknot on the All Hope Is Gone tour in the UK back in, I believe it was 2009, if my memory serves. And I was really impressed with them, and my brother lent us a CD of them, which I'll talk to you about in a bit. And ever since then, I have grown to really love this band and really keep a strong following on them, because I feel like they've got a really good discography behind them. And I've got all their albums, part of the new one, on CD. So you've got their debut album, which was Burn My Eyes, which is a very different kettle of fish compared to their more modern sound. This one's kind of more hardcore, maybe a bit of nu metal influence in there, but it's still groovy and it's still heavy. So yeah, great stuff for the band. Then we have their second album, The More Things Change, which is probably the album that I've listened to the least out of their discography, but it is a solid album from what I can remember. And they were still in that sort of like groove metal mixes with nu metal and hardcore sort of vibe. So yeah, very good stuff. And then we get to their regarded as nu metal album, which is The Burning Red, which is probably the second least listened to album, but this one, it took a while for us to click. Then one day I was just in the right sort of mood or the right frame of mind, and this really clicked with me, and it is a solid album, and I can hear the nu metal influence on it. I think personally it's a solid album. And then we also have Supercharger, which followed that one up, which this one I have listened to a little bit recently. I don't know, I was just getting in the mood for the new Machine Head album, and I really like this album. I don't play it as much as I should, but like The More Things Change, it's still a solid album. And then my introduction to the band, or proper introduction to the band, was this album that my brother lent us, which I kind of stole, but Through the Ashes of Empires. Now, this album, to me, is an absolute masterpiece in Machine Head's discography. It's just, every time I hear it, I hear the nostalgia of like discovering them at the arena, supporting Slipknot. I can hear the songs, you know, and I just feel like this one just has a little special place in my heart, and it's probably why I listen to it so much. But yeah, it's a solid album if you haven't heard it before. Then, regarded as their best album, or highly regarded as their best album, is The Blackening. And I can understand why, because this is an absolute menace of an album. But I would say Through the Ashes of Empire and The Blackening is their kind of transition into more thrash metal territory and more heavier, different kind of riff writing and stuff like that. But I definitely feel like this is the next evolutionary step after the Through the Ashes of Empire sound into what we regard as the modern Machine Head sound, I would say. So yeah, great album, and in my opinion, definitely regarded as a classic, or a modern day classic as a lot of people described it. Then we have one of, personally, my most underrated and least talked about album of Machine Head, and probably is one of my favourites, has to go to Unto the Locust, which came out in, I believe it came out in like 2011. And yeah, and it features my favourite song, Locust. I absolutely love that song, just the sound of it, the writing, and just the aggression behind it. I think it's such an incredible song. But yeah, absolutely love this album. If you haven't heard it before, I'd be very surprised, especially if you're on this review. And then they got a new bassist in the band on this album, and this is the one from 2014, and that is Bloodstone and Diamonds, which I regard as a very underrated album, because I feel like a lot of people say this is the album that changed their sound, which I personally disagree with. I think it's just a little bit of a continuation into the Blackening sound, because you are following Until the Locust and Blackening, so, you know, highly regarded albums, into this, yeah, it's gonna maybe waver with a lot of people, but I honestly love this album, and one of my favourite songs from Machine Head is, what's it called? Beneath the Silt. It's a more lower tune song than they usually play in Drop B, but it's lower tune. I can't remember what tune it is off the top of my head, but it's really low and really gritty sound, and I absolutely love it. So yeah, if you haven't heard that song, definitely highly recommend it. And then we get to their kind of bitter album to a lot of people, and that was in 2018 when they released Catharsis. Yeah. Now this album, a lot of people, from what I could see, hated this album. Like, there was a lot of props that it's too long. I think it's like an hour and 18 minutes, something daft like that. So a lot of people were saying it's too long of an album. There's no you know, standout moment. It's very meh. It just sounds like B-sides, all that stuff. I've heard all the excuses, but to me anyway, I actually really enjoy this album, and the more I listen to it, the more I come to find myself enjoying this a lot more than some of the classic albums, to be honest. You know, the stuff before Through the Ashes of Empires, you know, like that sort of stuff. I enjoy it and admire it, but I feel like this album, just something about it just has a bit of character to it, and it sounds very fucking good, if you ask me. So that's just my personal opinion. I know there's a lot of people who, because I posted it on Facebook, and there was people, oh no, I agree, it's a very good album, and there was some people, oh, it's fucking shite, you know. But to me anyway, I think it's a solid album, and the more I listen to it, the more I really enjoy it. So I know that's gonna have a lot of divide there, but you know. So it's been 4 years since we had a Machine Head album, and I know we had Is There Anybody Out There as a single, which from what I can see on Spotify has become one of their well-known songs. But I've wanted a new album for quite a while now, and when they announced that Dave and Phil Demmel had left Machine Head, I was quite disappointed, because I think Dave is an absolute monolithic drummer and one of the best in groove metal. Like, he's up there with Chris Adler, if you ask me. He should be talked about as much as Chris Adler, in my personal opinion, but that needs to be said. And then Phil Demmel, absolutely incredible lead extraordinaire. He's absolutely incredible. So I was interested to see where they would take things after those departures, you know. And we had a couple of singles here and there, and I think a little EP or something like that. And it made us think, like, what was going to be, like, the new members, like, because they did a Burn My Eyes anniversary with the lineup from that album, bar the bassist, because they've got the current bassist in there. Was that lineup going to get back together, or what was going to happen? And then they announced that Vog of Decapitated, I hope I'm pronouncing the name right, of Decapitated had joined Machine Head as the second guitarist. And I was like, ooh, that might be interesting, having a more death metal orientated guitarist come in to do some groove metal stuff, and something that's got a signature sound like Machine Head. It was like, okay, what's this going to play on? Because I know Vog has a lot of right-handed titles and really intricate riffage. What would it bring to the Machine Head sound? And then they announced that they were bringing out a new album, and they dropped the first single, which I believe was called Choke on the Ashes of Your Hate. That was when they announced Vog. And I was like, okay, Machine Head's starting to pick up the pace again, bring up some really fast, blistering, sort of Blackening Part 2 sort of vibes. Yeah, I really got a vibe for, oh, what was the song? It's on the Blackening. Clenching the Fist of Descent. Yeah, I kind of got that sort of vibe from it. So I was like, okay, and Beautiful Morning as well, I will say, that kind of vibe. And I was like, okay, where is this Machine Head, like, getting a new spurt of energy? You know, have they just been given some adrenaline or whatever? So what's going to happen? And then I kept up to date with the singles, and I was really liking what I sound. And then we got to the album release date, which was like about a week or two ago, and I get to listen to the album of Kingdom and Crøwn. So yeah, it's 13 tracks and runs around an hour in length, or if you get the bonus track version, it's 15 tracks in length, which is the one we're going to be reviewing, and it's an hour and 11 minutes long. Now, obviously, it's a little bit shorter than Catharsis, and I believe it's a little bit shorter than, or a little bit longer than Bloodstone and Diamonds. So I was really kind of excited for this album after hearing the singles and listening to them quite a lot on repeat, to be fair. And what is this a rebirth of Machine Head? Because I think so, because this album for me is it has a new energy surrounding it, and I think that has come from the songwriting and stuff. And I will also add, we've got some session drum work on here by Naveen, I believe his name is, from Job for a Cowboy, and was in the band Flesh Rot. I don't know if they're still going, but yeah, he's in Job for a Cowboy, so you know there's going to be some death metal orientated drumming on here. So I'm glad that they brought like a new death metal sort of orientated guitarist in there, but also recruited someone with a death metal sort of you know, history, shall we say, to really give the band a new burst of energy, you could say. And you can feel it across this entire album. I'm not talking during the interludes and stuff, but throughout the entire songwriting, you can tell that not just from the riff writing, but also the vocal delivery as well. But the riff writing, you can tell, is a little bit more faster paced, a little bit more intense. It's definitely more thrash and death metal oriented, but there is still a lot of groove that Machine Head has still got that Machine Head sound, and you can tell that Rob Flynn has been like pretty much inspired by having some new guys in the band. Like when Bloodstone and Diamonds came out, obviously the first album with their current bassist, I can't remember his name off the top of my head, but you can tell there was some sort of different influence there in the change in sound, and then Catharsis kind of followed in that sort of swing. But this one, with the addition of these new members, really gives it a more a boost of energy, and it really feels a lot more frantic and energetic, and it feels a lot more fresher to listen to, because it feels like Catharsis and Bloodstone and Diamonds were straight up groove metal oriented. There wasn't as much thrashy blisteringness to it, whereas this one, it is scattered throughout this entire album, and it really has a big amount of energy behind it, and it makes you want to headbang. It makes you want to get involved, get in the pit, spin the fucking room, or spin the fucking arena in this case, because you know Machine Head has become one of the biggest bands in metal these days, and you can really tell on this album they're going for high energy and non-stop relentlessness, but then still packing the wallop in it is. Because I feel like Rob Flynn is always sticking to that formula that Machine Head is known for sounding like, with these like really signature signature at this point harmonics, and you know signature style riffs. Like you can feel like they're not changing their sound, they're just growing with their sound overall. But I will say though, the tone on this album definitely reminds me a lot of The Blackening, because you can feel every right hand attack. Like it's a signature sound, the Black album, the Blackening album, should I say, for its overall tone, and you can the production behind it, because you can feel all the attack, and every riff you can feel a lot of intensity with it, not just from listening to it, but you can feel it as well. And I feel like Machine Head definitely know how to capture that energy in the recording process, and this album definitely reflects that. And when I saw them live at Bloodstock, they were the secret act, they played Choke on the Ashes of Your Hate, and I was like, I could hear every little bit that I could hear on the record. It sounded exactly like it do. Like, they had some technical issues, but at the same time, you could hear, yeah, it's what was reflected. The sound exactly like they do live. And I will say the bass tone is really, really impressive on this album. Like, it stands out a lot more, in my opinion, than on the last album, Catharsis. Like, it really has a standout and a signature like chunk to it. It definitely feels like they've umped up the bass tone and really took a lot more attention to detail. Okay, we need to have the bass like more forward, not so much forward in the mix, but more, have a bit more presence in it, and it definitely feels like that, and it really adds to the overall chunk behind the riffs that are played on this album, because I feel like the riffs are absolutely incredible. And then we get to the overall lead work on this album, which I think Rob is an absolute incredible guitar just songwriter in general, but his lead work is absolutely extraordinary on this album. He really has this really unique way of making a guitar solo sing on this album, and I really feel like it really reflects, like, especially onto the more modern era of making those guitars like sing out loud and, you know, be well known, and I feel like this album definitely represents that. As for vocal delivery, Rob's tone's definitely changed over the years, especially passing through Unto the Locust. Like, Unto the Locust, I feel like, is when like the Blackening and Blackening and Through the Ashes of Empire sound very similar in the vocal delivery, but Unto the Locust afterwards, he definitely gets a lot more of a more gruntier sound. Like it sounds more mid-tone on the older stuff, whereas this, it sounds more growled. It sounds a little bit more gritty and a bit more from the gut, in essence. Like, it really sounds more dementing in a way. Like, it sounds more demented than the aggressive side that we've heard from Ron. And this is him like easing back and going for more. And like, one thing that really stood out for me on this album when it came to Rob's vocal delivery is two things. One, his sort of like Hetfield sort of vocals, like the half scream sort of stuff. Really, the sound and the getting more melodic as time goes on, and he's definitely homing in and becoming more of an absolute powerhouse of vocals. But on this album, I think the low vocals is something that really sings a little bit, rather sings, but more captivated us a little bit, because I was really impressed that he's able to he's pushing his lows, like they're not like a death metal growl, they're just his signature sort of half scream sort of tone, but he's managed to push it into more of a baritone sort of feel to it that makes it just sound that little bit more crushing, a little bit more devastating. I think that might have come from the death metal sort of surroundings that sort of influences this album. But I wouldn't say that this is like a death groove or a death metal record by any means or stretch. It just has a more faster pace, a lot more death metal sort of pace to it, but feels as well. But it definitely is definitely that signature, you know, Machine Head sound. And overall, I would say that this is an absolute fantastic follow-up to Catharsis. Like, for those who like Catharsis, like me, this one feels like Catharsis, but with a lot more energy going for it. A bit as if Catharsis had just took a massive shot of Red Bull, for example, or, you know, those old energy drink shots that they used to do. I don't know if they still do them now, but took one of those and then recorded it. That's what it doesn't feel like. I wouldn't say it's like Catharsis B-sides. I would say it feels like a new lease of life for Machine Head, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what comes forth from this new dawning of Machine Head. Like, this is the next chapter. Like, Machine Head's had a few lineup changes in the past, but this is the first one from a new lineup change, and it's definitely revamped the band in a big way, I would say, and it's put a lot more interest and a lot more of the public eye on Machine Head because of, okay, they've had a lineup change, what's going to happen? And I can say, as a big diehard Machine Head fan, that this is an absolutely incredible album, and it is definitely became a very surprising album of 2022, and I feel like there's some absolutely incredible songs on this album, I will say so. Slaughter to Martyr, yeah, that's the first song. It's a 10-minute track, so that's what it kind of reminds us of the first track on the Blackening in a way. but Choke on the Ashes of Your Hate is definitely my favourite single on this album. Become the Firestorm is an absolute anthem of a track. My Hands Are Empty, Unhallowed, is it? Yeah, I've got the track list down here. Unhallowed, Kill Thy Enemies, No Gods, No Master, No Gods, No Master. I had that the album on just when I was preparing for this review, and that track came on, and I was really captivated. I was like, ooh, what's that track? Yep, gotta remember that. So make sure you check that one out. I believe they've just released a music video for that one on release date, if my memory serves. And then one other track I definitely want to talk about is the Arrows in the Words from the Sky is also an amazing track. But one track I want to talk about is one of the bonus tracks, and that is Exoception. Exteroception. Yeah. It's an instrumental track, but my god, I did not expect those kind of riffs from Machine Head. Like, fuck me, they definitely didn't fit into the character of the rest of the album, in my personal opinion, but it really sounded very fresh and very fucking heavy. Like, I was listening to the album and it got to that song, and I had to stop what I was doing and be like, is this still fucking Machine Head? And it fucking was. It was heavy as fucking balls, and I would definitely say it's one of the standout singles. I know it's an instrumental, so it's a bit different, but in my personal opinion, I think it's an absolute chunky one. And then they've added a bonus track also with Arrows in the Words from the Sky, acoustic version, which is definitely adds a different feel to it. The only thing is, with it being so close to the original version on the track list, it kind of made it a little waver a little bit. I was like, I've already heard this a few minutes ago, you know, sort of thing. But nonetheless, I think this is an absolutely remarkable album, definitely something that has definitely surprised me in 2022, and I'm recommending a lot of people to check it out if they weren't like a massive fan of the recent Machine Head albums. I'm saying, look, give the new one a chance. I think it's absolutely incredible. So yeah, for an overall score though, I'm going to give this a solid 8 out of 10. Absolutely incredible release, and definitely something you just need to check out if you're a fan of Machine Head. Old or new or mid, you're going to love this album. It's definitely brought the band a new lease of life, in my opinion. So make sure you check it out. It's absolutely incredible. But yeah, I'll see you until the next video. And remember, stay metal. Check out my playlist down below, Soup Metal Riffs for Days. And more videos are going to be coming soon. And as I said, stay metal. And I'll see you later.